I've been in this business for over 11 years. I've created multiple products to the six-figure level, even created multiple products and programs into the seven-figure level and beyond. And in doing this process, I've been at every level of business from the 0 to 100,000, 100,000 to 250, 250 to 500 to a million, multi-million. And I've done that multiple times. No matter what level you are in business, there are three tools that you're going to have to use. And I don't really hear people talk about all of these tools, especially not at once. And they're absolutely vital. Almost everyone I know uses them, but no one really talks about them. And so this episode right now is going to be about the three underrated tools or elements you need in order to grow a course, program, or consulting business online. Really enjoyed recording this episode. I hope you enjoy it. And if that's interesting to you, well, keep on listening.
Hi, I'm Brandon Lucero, and you're about to experience the new way to thrive in business, entrepreneurship, and life by leaning into who you are, what you love, and standing up for what you want to create. Get ready, because this is where we go against the grain, say no to outdated society norms, and we say yes to change in order to create a happier, more fulfilled world. Welcome to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, we got episode number 2 of the little series we're doing about messaging sales. It's just about business. I just wanted to do a little series all about the things I've learned in growing a business to the multiple seven-figure level, building a team. What does it take messaging-wise? What does it take lesson-wise? What are all the things that you have to be prepared for? And today what I wanted to talk about is actually the 3 underrated elements that most people don't know they need or know to even focus on when it comes to building a business. And these are 3 things that I didn't know I needed, but when I started to focus on this, it made a massive difference inside of my company. And so I wanted to dive into these. Now there's obviously a lot of things that need to come together. There's going to be a lot of lessons you learn when building a business, and every phase of your business will need and require different things and need and require different lessons. So, for me, the brackets are usually, they work in this range of, when you're just starting out, there's one sort of, and let's just call it like maybe you're 50,000 below or 10,000 or just even at 0, right? You're just getting started. There's a lot of things that you're going to need to know. And there's a lot of things you don't really need to know and don't really need to focus on. Honestly, when you're just starting out, it's really more about just uncovering what your offers are, getting your momentum, starting some betas. It's like you're kind of in hustle and grind mode. You're kind of doing everything yourself because you don't have the money to hire anyone yet. You shouldn't really be spending the money on hiring anyone yet. You should just be hustling to close your first couple clients, maybe doing some work for free to get testimonials. And there's so many things you can do. Like, one of the things I did was because when I started my company, it was called Sold with Video, and I was doing video ads for people. And I had a friend who had a local business, and I did it for free. And I did it for free so that I would have examples to show. But then I also did it so that I could upsell them a second video afterwards. So it was kind of like a way to get my foot in the door, build a testimonial, build an example, possibly sell them another video. But it was also my opportunity to ask them if they had anyone else that they thought would need a video and make an introduction. So I was able to get referrals. So it's like I was doing this hustle and grind and free work just to try to close deals. I was literally walking door to door, selling video packages to restaurants. I was doing all of these things, and that's kind of what happens in that first phase of business. So there's not really much to do really other than that. It's just like trial and error, moving forward, hustling and grinding. And then when you get to about $100,000 a year, you're going to be in this weird sort of limbo area because you think $100,000 a year is the holy grail, but that's not $100,000 a year of take home. That's $100,000 a year of revenue. So when you have expenses and taxes, and then you want to hire on top of it, like the money goes really quick. So, you're kind of in this weird little area where it's like, I want to hire, but I can't really afford to hire. So I'm going to keep grinding. And it's this weird, like sort of limbo area. And then when you get to about 250,000 a year, it's a little bit of a different boat. You have a little bit of a team now. You have to manage your money a little bit more. And then when you get to about 500 is the next bracket. And that's when you're really like, okay, full-fledged sort of business team. You might have people in key roles now, so you're not the one making all of the decisions within the company. Maybe take a little bit of a step back from being the driver of everything going on in the business. There's a lot more system, a lot more process. There's a lot more scalability, things like that. And then when you get to the million, that's usually when it's like, okay, I'm in like full on CEO role. I'm more making high level decisions. We have systems in place. We have KPIs in place. We have reports coming in. And a lot of that stuff again could happen at the 500,000 level too. But my point is there's these different phases that you're going to go through when you start to build out your business. And each phase comes with its own set of challenges and uncomfortableness and stepping into the unknown and living the be, do, have model. For those of you who don't know it, most people operate from have, do, be. Once I have the money, then I'll do the things that I need to do. And once I do those things, then I'll be the whatever. So it's like, once I have money for the ads, once I have money, then I can run the ads. And then once I run the ads, then I'll be the $1 million business owner. And it's like, well, no, you have to be the $1 million business owner first. What do they think? What do they do? How do they act? What decisions do they make? And then those actions, so your being, be, do, have, allow you to then do the things you need to do that produce the results of who you want to be. So for me, if I don't have the money to run ads, I'll freaking figure it out, right? Because that's what $1 million business owner does. You guys have to remember, actions produce results. Actions of a broke business owner or a stuck or plateaued business owner produce the results of a broke or plateaued business. The actions of $1 million business owner produce $1 million business. And so, each phase is going to have its own set of challenges, and you're going to have to live that be, do, have model. However, with that being said, the 3 underrated elements that I wanted to go over today with you, it doesn't matter what phase you're at, because they work in all of the different phases. These are things that are universal. These are things that no matter where you're at, you're going to have to use, and you're going to have to use to your advantage, and you're going to have to be aware of, and you're going to have to utilize. And so that's why I wanted to bring these tools, because no one really talks about these tools. Everyone always loves to talk about the newest strategy or the newest platform or the newest framework, which, by the way, are all great. I do that too. But these are 3 elements that most people don't talk about, don't utilize, but I utilize a lot. And I know a lot of my friends utilize these a lot. And so let's just dive in. The very first tool is strategic trial and error. And what this means is it's trial and error to get the data that you need. It's strategic trial and error because I don't want you just to trial and error, and try and don't work and it doesn't, and you don't pay attention to the results. The key thing here is trial and error is here to produce data. It gives you results or information that you need in order to get the results. So this is like simply posting more or taking more action. And I have a philosophy within our coaching program. One of my first questions that I ask people is when they say, Brandon, can you review this page? My first answer to them or question to them is, how did it perform when you put it out there? And if they tell me, well, I haven't put it out there, I'm going to say, well, let's put it out there then. I won't even review the page unless I see red flags. And here's the reason why. Is data inside your company will tell you everything that you need. It will tell you exactly where the problem is, what needs to be fixed, what's working, what's not working. Data is the most important thing inside of your company, inside of your business, to direct you on where the problem actually is. And I've had students sometimes, they're like, Brandon, can you review my opt-in page? And I'll ask them, what's it converting at? And they'll tell me 37%. And I said, no, I'm not going to review your page. And they say, why not? And I said, because it's not broken. It's working above average. And then the response is, well, Brandon, if I can just get it to 40%, I would have more leads coming in. And I would tell them, if we took the same amount of time, energy, and focus to get it from 37% to 40%, and we put that same time and energy into lead generation, you would produce way more leads than you would by getting it to 40%. But again, we wouldn't know that unless we put it out there, unless we monitored the data. And a lot of the times there are things that you think are going to work that don't. And there's going to be things that you think may not work, and they do. And so even if you don't feel ready, you need to push your content out there. You're going to learn so much by taking way more action, way more steps. And what I tell people is, look, to get to the result that you want, it might be 100 attempts or 100 steps. And it's up to you how fast you take those steps. Because the number is going to be 100, whether it takes you a week or it takes you a year. So for me, I would rather post quicker, post sooner, put it out there, get the data, see if it worked. Not only that, but what you're also doing when it comes to things like content and webinars and ads is every time you put something out there, it's not that you're just trial and erroring and getting data. You're improving your skills. You're improving your confidence level. You're improving your ability to make something that's even better. You're getting better. You're growing every single time you do that, which is why when you look back a year from now on content that you thought was good and you look back at it and you're almost embarrassed of it. But a year ago, you were proud of it. Why? Because of growth, because you've improved your skills, because you repeated and did the same thing more than other people. So you improve on your skills. And again, what this leads to is it allows you to gather more data that you need in order to make decisions on what's working and what's not. You know, one of the biggest things that I tell people when it comes to messaging is that your content should dictate and guide you and lead you to the perfect messaging in your launch and in your funnel. Why would we guess at things? Why would we sit here and try to guess at what's going to work and what's a good title? Use your content. Use the data. Use your things like your email open rates. What was the subject line? What content did the best? What podcast episode got the most downloads? What got the most DMs? That's all gold that guides you on the messaging. The data guides you on the messaging to figure out what's going to work in your sales process, in your funnels. What's the webinar topic going to be? But you can't do that if you're not trial and erroring. You can't do that if you're not testing things and putting things out there. And the other thing that happens from this, I kind of hinted at it already, but what happens is the more you post, you step into the reason why growth happens is because you step into new levels of awareness. You can only learn so much at a given moment because you don't have the awareness or the perspective to grasp everything. So once these things that are new to you, once these things that are different to you become normal, you've elevated yourself to a new higher level and you have fresh thinking. You have a fresh perspective. The things that were a challenge are now normal. You've grown, so you see things differently. You're now ready for the next phase of content. You're now ready for the next phase of creating webinars, of selling, of talking. So what happens is the more you post and the faster you post, the more trial and error that you embrace. Not only do you get more data, but you yourself start to grow. You yourself become more aware. You yourself improve your skills and your knowledge. So there's benefit all the way around. Now, one of the objections I get from this is people tell me all the time, well, Brandon, what happens if I post content that's not very good? It's like the best content creators in the world post content that's not good sometimes. And I always tell people, think of your best, someone that you follow online, someone that you love following, you love their content. It's really impactful for you. You just really like it. Okay. Think of that. Think of that person. Can you tell me the last 5 pieces of content they posted? Probably not, right? Probably not. But can you tell me at least one piece of content that hit it out of the park for you, that really moved you, that really touched you, that really held some space in your head? It was like, wow, that hit. You probably could. And the reason for that is because not every single piece of content, even your favorite people are posting, hits and lands and is good. Everyone strikes out. But did you stop following them? No, you didn't stop following them. You probably still follow them, right? Because not every single piece of content is going to be relevant. Not every single piece of content is going to speak directly to you. They may be off on something, but it's the home runs. Who can hit the most amount of home runs? And you're not going to hit home runs if you're never getting up to the plate and you're never freaking posting. And I remember a couple times, and when we really embrace this, when it comes to ads. For us, we've run millions and millions and millions of dollars over the years in Facebook ads, not only for ourselves, but for our clients. We had an agency at one point. Like, I don't know the amount of money we've spent on ads, but it's got to be in the 5 to 10 million range over the last couple of years. I'm assuming it's in that range. And the one thing I've noticed is we've gotten pretty good at ads. Like, we're pretty good with writing copy and creating creatives, but we went back and we monitored how many of our ads were actually winners. And when I say winner, that means got us the cost per lead that we wanted. And I looked back and it was about 25%. 25% of the ads that we create get the cost per lead that we want. And that was really low, I thought. I was like, wow, okay. Because that also means that 75% of the ads we create and write don't work at all. We have a 75% failure rate with our ads. And what I've learned is you just never really know what's going to land, what's going to hit, what's going to convert, and what's not. You just don't know. You literally don't know. And so, I remember this one time where Taylor, our integrator for the first couple of years of the business, they had the team create a bunch of ads, and it was around in December. So they created a bunch of Christmas ads, but we lost track of when the ads were running. They were actually running in January. So even though it was creation happened in Christmas time, they were running in January, and we had all these Christmas looking ads that were running in January, and it wasn't Christmas anymore. So I was like, what the heck are we going to do? So Taylor had this idea. Why don't we do copy that says something like, hey, did you know Christmas comes for entrepreneurs in January? We have this brand new free thing that we want to gift you, free training, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's never going to work, but let's try it. She really wanted to try it. And guess what? It was our best converting ad. It worked so well, right? This is what I'm talking about. Trial and error. The things that you think may not work might actually work. And the things that you take hours, days, weeks perfecting, that you have your coaches review, you pinpoint every little detail, you write out scripts. Sometimes they don't convert at all. And sometimes it's the little things that inspire you. It's the little ideas that you have that just take off. And sometimes it's vice versa. Sometimes the big scripted things do work, and sometimes it's the little ones that don't. You just never know. And I remember my very first webinar that I did. I spent weeks scripting it out word for word, an hour-long script, word for word. I followed the best webinar framework available at the time, word for word, scripted this thing out. I remember even I went to my buddy's house and saw all my college friends over the weekend, and they were all out partying and drinking by the pool. And I was up in the office just typing out because I needed to get this webinar done. I didn't want to get up on camera and just try to do it on my own. I needed to read a script. And that webinar bombed. It didn't do any sales. And I spent all this time and all this work on it. And the reason why it didn't work is because I've never done a webinar before. I didn't have the experience. I didn't know what made sales. I didn't know what was going to work and didn't work. I just followed script, did my best, scripted it all out and ran with it. But when I look back at that and I go, man, what could I have done differently? In hindsight, what I probably should have done is just done 5 webinars or 10 webinars, one every day, and just got a few people opting in for each one, and just did it, and then did it, and then did it, and then do it again, and do it again, and do it again, and improve and improve and improve and improve and improve. If I would have done that during the 2 weeks that it took me to script this whole thing out, I guarantee you I would have made more sales, which again, I just would have had to make one, but I would have been able to do it because not only would my confidence level have been higher, I would have learned what is working and what's not sooner. I would have seen how many people are showing up. I could have changed copy and messaging around. I could have tried the pitch differently. I could have seen when people were dropping off, but I didn't embrace this trial and error sort of culture. And even we had this new offer for NGM Plus about a year or two ago. And in order to try to figure out how to sell this thing, I did a weekly webinar. We did 24 webinars just to trial and error, just to see what's working and not working, what's going to sell and what's not going to sell, what headlines work and what headlines don't work, what topics work and what doesn't work, what sort of offer works with this thing, what sort of pitch works. 24. And I'm good at webinars now, right? Like I don't need to script webinars. I can literally just create the slides the day before I'm supposed to go live and bam, smack it out of the park because of the hundreds, if not thousands of webinars and live presentations that I've done over the last 10 years. Trial and error. I improve my skills, I improve my awareness, all of that stuff. And you got to understand, it's the same thing with everything in your business, with the content, your content as well. In order to find your voice and to figure out what works and to do all of that stuff, it takes trial and error. This business is not about perfectionism. It's about mastery. It's about improving your skills. It's about taking data and understanding the data and using that data to improve, not only improve what you do and what you say and what you focus on, but improve your own skills and growth. This, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated business growth tools that you will need at any and every level. And any successful person that you talk to in this space will tell you the importance of data, action, trial and error, and making decisions based off the data you get from that. So that's number one. Number two, and this is really powerful, never talked about. But the number two skill that you need in order to grow your business is this one so freaking important, is truly not just sitting here going, oh yeah, I know that, Brendan, but no, like the results will tell you if you guys have this or not. If you don't have the results you want in your content, you don't have the results you want in your sales, you do not have this mastered. I guarantee you that. If you monitor the data in your company and the data is not even at normal numbers, like average numbers, you don't have this mastered. So you can think you have it mastered all you want, but you don't. If the data and the numbers and the results aren't there, you do not have this mastered. So what is it? Number two is truly understanding the perspective of your audience. This may seem obvious or not that important, but this is the most important thing when it comes to messaging, when it comes to sales, when it comes to marketing. Most people think you need to talk about benefits and show the transformation and yada, yada, whatever buzzword phrase that all the gurus are telling you nowadays. That's what most people think, right? You got to show them the transformation. Sell them what they need and give what they want and give them what they need. Like, again, all those things, yes, all those things are important. And all those things can be very, very helpful. But how do you get them to trust that you can deliver the transformation? How do you get them, how do you deliver what they want if you don't understand their perspective? You know what I mean? It's like everyone has these buzzwords, but no one actually gives you the depth of what you need. And truly understanding their perspective, their situation, their circumstance, their day in, day out life, that's the most important thing. And what it boils down to, and this is the same thing in any relationship, whether it's a relationship with your spouse, your partner, your brother, sister, mom, dad, kids, friends, your employees, your employer, whatever. Customers, your audience, the relationship that you have, it boils down to making them feel understood. You're relevant to what they're going through and making them feel heard. But it's impossible to do that unless you can get inside of the perspective of that person. And this is incredibly hard to do. It's incredibly hard to do even in a relationship or a marriage or a friendship or whatever it is, because you want to be right. You have your own perspective, and your own perspective is so true that you just want to hold on to it and grip onto it, and you don't want to let go of it. And especially when you're a coach, you just want to like, hey guys, I just want to tell you everything. I want to tell you what the solution is. I want to give you the solution. I just want to help you. Here's all the information you need and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But that's communication from 100% of your perspective. And if you don't actually truly specifically understand where your audience is at, what their thoughts are, what their actions are, what they think is true, what they think is the right way, that's actually causing the problem, there is never going to be a big amount of sales for you. There are a couple people that I know that do a very good job with this with their content, and the holistic psychologist is one of them, where she will go in the specifics, into the depth of here's what patterns may happen in a relationship. And you might be reading it going like, oh my God, that's exactly what I'm doing. I have that pattern. And she'll say, if you had that pattern, You most likely grew up in a household that had this kind of parent, that kind of parent, who emotionally this and that, and And you sit there and you read this and you go, that's exactly the pattern I have. That's exactly the childhood I had. She understood and understands you. She gets you. She knows what you're going through. And she communicates at that level inside of her content. And I'm telling you right now, this style of communication, this style of content is one of the most underlooked, underrated. I think people just don't know about it. They don't know. They see like, oh man, that content's so good, but they don't actually understand what's going on. And I'm telling you right now, what is going on. And you have to get out of your perspective and inside of theirs. And what I have found is the people that can do this the best and the easiest are the ones with more mastery. And here's the reason why. Because if right now you have no experience and no mastery over your craft, the only thing you can tap into is your education. And your education is all solution-based, mostly. It's usually mostly all solution-based. There might be a little bit of here's why things are happening, but it's not situational. It's not specific, meaning here's the situations they're going to be and here's how they might interpret this and here's what they're going through. No. Certifications, degrees, they all teach you something. So if your only level of mastery is from your education, you have no other way to communicate other than just teaching and delivering information. And that doesn't make people feel heard. The more experience you have, the more mastery you have, the more understanding of what someone's going through, what they're doing on a daily basis, what the problem actually is, what their life looks like, the more relevancy you're going to have, the more understood they're going to feel, and the more they're going to feel heard in what's going to happen. And I use this all the time, so I'm going to say it, and if you've heard it before, please just, bear with me here. But I love using the analogy, the doctor analogy. And I always tell people, imagine you have a stomach pain that starts at 7:30 at night and ends at 8:30 at night. Okay, just imagine that for a second. And it started about a week ago, and you have no idea what it is. You go to 9 doctors, and none of them can tell you what's wrong with you. Okay, so 9 doctors, and you're going to feel like depressed. There's no end in sight. You're hopeless. Like no one can help you. You don't know what's wrong. I don't know what's wrong with me, right? That's what your audience is feeling. No one has been able to accurately and specifically describe them and their situation and what they're going through. No one has been able to do that. That's why they still have the problem. No one's been able to tell them why the problem's even happening, right? So they're probably feeling the same thing you would feel if you went into 9 doctors and no one knew what was wrong with you or told you what to do. But I want you to imagine you go into a 10th doctor, and the 10th doctor, you don't even say anything. They take one look at you and they say, let me guess, stomach pain. Did it start about a week ago? Starts at 7:30 at night, ends at 8:30 at night. What are you going to feel? You're going to feel relieved, heard, understood. Someone actually gets me. But you're also going to assume this person knows how to fix it. This person has the solution. And if that doctor said, yeah, you got stomach loop, and then walks away, says, good luck with that, and walks away, what are you going to do? You're going to chase him down and be like, doctor, what do I do? How do I fix this? But guess what? That doctor never said they had a solution. They never said they had a treatment. They never showed you their degrees. They never showed you their certifications. They never showed you case studies or testimonials. They never even said they've healed anyone from it. Yet there you are chasing the doctor down, asking them, how do you heal me? Help me, doctor. You're asking them for their business. And that's why this is so important. The more understood that someone feels, the more relevant you become to them. And the more they're going to assume that you have the solution. But guess what, guys? The only way to get that level of communication is to literally get your hands dirty, work with people, learn, pay attention to what they're dealing with, what are the specific problems, and then test it in your content. And then you'll start to see inside of your content what's rising to the top, what's getting more engagement, what's getting more likes and views and comments and all that stuff. And these are all indicators of I'm hitting it out of the park here and not over here and da-da-da-da-da. And that's why these two go together. When you start to understand the perspective of your audience, you get to trial and error it. You get to test it and see how accurate is this. And I'll tell you real quick, so you guys can have all the ego you want around knowing or not knowing your audience. Oh, I already know my audience. Oh, it's like, okay. And the data doesn't lie. The results don't lie. So if you do, then you're going to be getting engagement and more followers, and you're going to be getting purchases, and you're going to be getting sales, and you're going to be getting all of that stuff. Now, in order to do this, it's a very easy concept to understand, but a hard one to execute. It really is. But the first step to doing this is you've got to take off the coaching lens, because the coaching lens accesses your full brain. It accesses, oh, I know this, and that's so simple. They're going to know this, and that, and this is so easy, and like, all of this stuff. And I want to tell them the root cause and what's actually going on. I want to tell it. Guys, they're not ready for all that yet. You can in time, but the coaching lens wants to dig deep. You want to go deep. You want to go fast. You want to help. So when it comes to your content, your communication, your messaging, you need to use your coaching style. And if you are a good coach, then you understand the value in validating people and making them feel heard and understanding the perspective. You probably do that as a coach anyways. You got to do the same thing with your audience. And it's hard because you do have to remove your knowledge and your skills a little bit based on the type of content you're doing or where someone is in the funnel and things like that. But it comes down to understanding more of their actions, thoughts, and feelings. So instead of just saying, oh yeah, my people are overwhelmed in the morning, it's like, well, no. Who are they? Are they moms? Are they dads? Are they business owners? They're moms. Okay. Well, what does overwhelmed look like in the morning? Well, they're just busy and they got a lot on their plate. Okay. Well, tell me what's on their plate. Well, they got to make food for their kids. Well, what's so hard about making food for the kids? Well, the kids don't listen. Okay. How many times do they have to are they yelling at the kids? Yeah, they have to yell at the kids to get them to listen. Well, how many times? At least 2 times to get their kids to listen. Like, well, what happens when they don't listen? The kids are sitting down like, well, they're late to school. Okay. So maybe I should say in an ad, hey, are you a mom who's tired of having to yell at your kids 2 times, at least 2 times every morning to get them to sit down and eat their breakfast? And because of that, you're on average late half the week to school and drop off. That's so specific and detailed, but also accurate that people hear that and they go, that's me. I feel heard, understood. This is relevant to me. And by the way, that reaction happens automatically. They don't even think about it. It's just like, oh my God, that's me. Oh, that feels relevant, right? It's a subconscious, automatic decision that they make that makes them feel heard and understood. You're speaking to me. You're speaking about this stuff. And it's really important. It's really important to do that. Not only with your audience, it's important to do that with all the people in your life. And I don't know why I'm going on this tangent, but I'm going to say it anyways, is you guys can hold your perspective in your thinking and have compassion, empathy, and understanding of someone else's perspective at the same time. I think a lot of people get into these places where it's like, no, this is my perspective. This is the truth. And this is the truth. And you're right. And I'm wrong. And blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, they can both coexist. Both realities can coexist. Right? So and that's important for just even relationship communication, both can coexist. And you can validate someone else's experience and beliefs and feelings without it threatening your perspective. That is a very possible, real thing that happens. And that's when people start to feel heard and when you get out of your ego. Now, believe it or not, ego does come to play in the relationship with course creator and audience member too, because you want to sit there and say, this is what I know. This is how smart I am. This will be helpful. That's all ego. But when you take the time to silence the ego and really, truly listen and hear where they're at and make them feel heard and understood, that's where the magic starts to happen. And when we look at commercials or like the infomercials that everyone loves to make fun of, and because they're always over exaggerated and things like that. And you might look at that on the surface level and say, well, yeah, they're talking about pain points. But they're not really. They are and they're not. Like, yes, surface level, they're talking about pain points. I always remember the hose one. It's like the hose is always tangled and, they over exaggerate it. It's all over the place. And oh my gosh, and you're getting all flustered. But they over exaggerate real things to make people feel heard, understood. And this is relevant to me. And they go, yeah, that is a really big problem. That is how I feel. Yeah, might be a little bit overdone and cheesy, but but damn, that is the issue. So they're making people feel heard. They're going, what is the actual unwanted real experience that this person is dealing with? And they tap into that. Now imagine you tapped into that. You can do this in the form of content. I love doing it in content, in emails, podcast episodes. I also love doing it in the beginning of webinars. I call it diagnosing people, getting people to come to their own conclusion. This is relevant to me. This is for me. This is designed for me. I have those problems. This is the person for me. And the beautiful part about this is when you can nail this, this is when you start to gain one of the trusts that you need. And that trust is they need to trust in your ability to solve the problem. And when you can so accurately and specifically make them feel heard and understood and validated, like my doctor example, they'd start to develop a trust in your ability to solve the problem, because there's no way in which you would know things to that detail without understanding the situation, the problem, and having a solution. Now, when I say this to people go like, well, Brandon, if I get so specific, then I'm going to like push people away. And it's like, no, you're not. You have to understand getting specific and detailed and relevant doesn't mean getting narrow. And it's a big misconception. And I'll give you an example. How many of you have ever experienced going to the grocery store and you walk into the produce section and you're about to pick up some apples, or maybe it's oranges or bananas or potatoes. Like, you know, I always love sweet potatoes, and, you know, you go and you're like, okay, I need the bag. Right. And they always have those like cylinders that are kind of upright, and you go and you grab the bags, and they're usually green, or they're sometimes clear, you know, and they're very thin. So sometimes you have to lick your fingers to like massage the top and like open up the bag. And that is kind of frustrating, because then you start throwing the produce in, and the bags are so thin that sometimes like a sweet potato or an onion or something will break through the bag, and then they rip, and it's just really annoying. How many of you guys have had that experience? Probably all of you, and you know what I'm talking about, right? Well, guess what? That was a very specific scenario that pretty much everyone listening, all thousands of you, however many people are listening, all have experienced. Specific doesn't mean narrow. It just means specific and detailed. And you can pick situations or problems that the majority of your audience is experiencing, but just be detailed and specific about it and accurate about it. That's the goal. That's the trick. Okay. So that's number 2. So number 1 is embrace trial and error, pay attention to data. Number 2 is understand the perspective of your audience, like truly understand their perspective and where they're at and what they're experiencing. What is their reality? What is their life? What is all that stuff? Okay. And then number 3, the third one, well, let me go back to number 2 real quick. Actually, there's one more thought that popped into my head before we get into number 3. The thing that you want to pay attention to also when it comes to this is you want to have some awareness around you. So it's one thing to understand their perspective and look, I get it. But you also have to have awareness of you. And that means, are you going too deep right now? Are you not missing something? How are you talking to them? Are they aware of this yet? And here's a perfect example. If you're going to do a webinar titled How to Heal Your Nervous System, my first question is going to be, are they aware their nervous system needs to be healed? And you might be sitting there going like, well, Brandon, I'm talking to their perspective. That's what they're experiencing. They're experiencing their nervous system being dysregulated. And I go, I understand that, but are they aware the thing that they're experiencing is a dysregulated nervous system? Or are they sitting there saying, I can't control my yelling at my kids? And you might say, well, Brandon, they can't control yelling at their kids, but that's because of a dysregulated nervous system. This is where your awareness needs to step in. You need to be aware that they don't understand that yet. And you need to be aware that you're talking too deep too soon. So instead of saying how to regulate your nervous system as a parent, as your title, maybe the title should be something of like how any parent can stop yelling at their kids in 30 days or less. The 30 days or less adjusts the speed of how fast it could happen. The not yelling at your kids is the actual real problem, the real actual situation that they're going through. That's their perspective. Their perspective is I can't stop yelling at my kids. Their perspective is not I need to heal my nervous system. So you need to have awareness of yourself as well. Okay. Number 3, Number 3 is embracing 70% perfect is perfect, 100% perfect is failure. This one is so important. I see so many people that can't let go. They micromanage. They feel like I can't trust anyone. I don't know. I can never find great talent. No one can ever get the job done right. It's like, you know what? No one's ever going to get the job done right. You got to understand that everyone makes mistakes. Everyone can always do better. Everyone, like, we're not freaking machines, man. Like, give your team, give yourself some slack. Like, if you really want to embrace the trial and error, stop waiting for perfectionism. 70% perfect is perfect. 100% perfect is failure. And yes, that is my quote. Yes, I created that. If you heard it from Jim Thornton, he stole it from me, did not give me credit for it. But this is something that I learned a long time ago, that you cannot wait for perfectionism. And you got to understand, perfectionism or 100% perfect is a freaking illusion. And I can prove it to you. I want you to look back at the content you were creating that you thought was 100% perfect a year or two ago. Look back at it. Because back then you thought it was 100% perfect, right? Do you think it's 100% perfect now? Are you embarrassed by it? Are you like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this and this and this and this? There is no 100% perfect, because your interpretation or what you are using to measure what is perfect and not perfect, that gauge moves as you grow. There is no such thing as perfect. And most of the time, your audience will never even know if something is perfect or not perfect. They don't know that. They just go like, is this relevant to me? Do I feel heard? Do I feel understood? Is it adding value to my life? That's where they're at. So you have to understand that. Now, this is going to be really helpful for you when you understand 70% perfect is perfect, because it's going to make you a better leader, because it gives you more empathy and compassion when people make mistakes or they don't really hit the results. And it allows you to not have to micromanage so much. So the question I usually get is like, well, how do we know they're doing their job if we're not paying attention or micromanaging? And again, it goes back down to data, KPIs. So you have to give every person on your team a role and a responsibility. And then there's KPIs that they need to hit. There's data that they need to hit. And the fastest way to know is if your employees and teams are getting their job done is, are they hitting their KPIs? It's super simple. If you have a sales team, look at the freaking numbers. Are they closing at 20% or are they not? Did you hit your $100,000 a month goal or did you not? Look at, your social media. Did we get 100 quality posts in this month or not? Did the person do this or not? Did they hit these numbers or not? And it becomes very simple. You don't need to micromanage, because the data and the numbers will tell you the truth. They will literally tell you what is going on. There is no need to micromanage. You can let go and trust in the system that you set up to tell you whether or not they're performing or not. That's why in my team, like, I don't monitor, like a lot of our employees are on salary. I don't monitor the salaried employees of how many hours they work, because I literally don't give a shit. I don't care. We have our goals. We have our KPIs that we need to hit in order to hit our goals. If you want to work 1 hour a week and you're hitting your KPIs, I literally don't care. Don't care. Don't care. Now, the question becomes like, well, what are the KPIs going to be? What are the responsibilities going to be? And that's a whole different topic and discussion to be had for another day. But the next thing is that I do want to address is, when your team doesn't hit their KPIs, it may not be as simple as you didn't hit your KPIs, you're done. So the next question that I like to ask is, why didn't they hit their KPIs? Did they need more resources? Did they need more teachings? Did they need more education? Did we put KPIs that were too high that no one could hit? Was the environment not right? Did they not get the support they needed? And you can go through all of those elemental things, right? All the different elements of why they didn't hit their KPI. And then you can start to change it and adjust it. Like if they really tried but if it's and it has to be consistent. Like no one's ever going to hit their KPIs 100% of the time. But if you have someone who's consistently not hitting KPIs week after week after week after week, and you put in the support, it's pretty clear that this person isn't fit for the role and the responsibility that is there. And it might be time to let go, right? So that's why we have this balance of the 70% perfect is perfect, because they're not always going to hit their KPIs. And we do want the environment to be right, but we also can't wait for perfectionism. So these are the three most underrated tools or elements that I like to have and use inside of my company that I think are absolutely vital for anyone hitting their KPIs, or anyone growing their business. So to recap, trial and error for data. Number 2, you need to understand the perspective of your audience. And number 3, you have to embrace 70% perfect is perfect. You need to learn to let go, trust in the system that you have. And there you have it. Those are the 3 most underrated tools that anyone needs in order to grow a business. If you love this episode, let me know. Leave us a review on iTunes. I love leaving those reviews. We haven't had a review in a while, guys. Come on, leave a review. I love reading those things and hearing how you enjoy the podcast. And get ready. If you enjoyed this episode, each episode in this series is just going to get stronger and better. So got another one coming next week, and I will see you then.
Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, go below, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you click on that bell icon and get notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, if you're looking for the show notes, we have them linked underneath this video, as well as our social media handles and some links to free training and offers that we drop from time to time to help you guys even further. So go check those out if you're interested, and thank you so much for tuning in to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.